cheer for your Sydney Swans.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club.
So to all you loyal Swans out there, you just can't get enough of the red and the white.
Fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods.
G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods. You're joined as always by the crew from Sydney. I'm Harps, and I have Noddy along for the ride.
That's right, you loyal Swans fans. Today we're going to be talking about a win over the Bombers and look ahead to the game on Saturday against the Lions up at the Gabba. And remember, if you enjoy what you hear, give us a like and a follow. Righto, let's kick things off with a quick game recap.
Yep, Saturday afternoon in front of a pretty low crowd in very wet conditions. 20,000 people turned out to the SCG. Swans got it over the Bombers. As I must say, most people, including the betting businesses, were expecting, but not by as much as was predicted. It was a close game in the end. 9 goals, 14-68 to 7 goals, 12-54. Swans started well, and Bombers finished well. We were almost lucky to get over the line in the end. Noddy, let's just start with addressing the elephant in the room, right? We skipped a week last week. We were all very down after that GWS game. I think the whole Sydney Swans fan base was very down. How you been, mate? It's been 2 weeks since we spoke. Not a great couple of weeks to be a Swans fan. How you going, buddy?
Yeah, good. Obviously, it's disappointing that the season is over and the way in which the season ended. I think, sorry, it hasn't ended, but, like our chances of scraping through to the finals, pulling off in a pretty miraculous turn of events, it would have been really. We had a lot of things that needed to go in our favour, but we first and foremost had to keep winning, and we just gave that up against the Giants in the second half. 10 on the trot against us or whatever it was, just unacceptable, and it sort of continues a bit of a trend that we've seen as far back as probably the 22 grand final, where there's just a couple of quarters where we go missing seemingly and let the opposition do whatever the hell they want, and we've got no answers from our core players, from our depth players as a club, who we are. We're just out there, we're just passengers, and it was on full display against the Giants. And yeah, look, I mean, they're a good club and they're going to have a crack in finals. Skip ahead a week, they got absolutely buried by the Dogs, which is a funny feeling. Obviously, I probably hate the Dogs as much as I hate the Giants, but yeah, look, I think it was, we would have been lucky to scrape through, but I was hoping that we'd turned a corner with some of our, players coming back in and us finding some form where we might be able to just, eke out wins. And we had a great first half, right? I mean, really, we probably should have been head further. We kicked a lot of behinds in the first half, but at least we were looking good. But then it just, turned pretty bleak pretty quickly.
Turned sour. It did. I'll just admit the interested disclosure that I didn't go to the game. We couldn't get that 2-for-1 ticket deal we were talking about last time. But I found out the result before I watched the replay. And Noddy, I was just thankful that I wasn't there, to be honest. Horrible. Watching it back, it was horrible to watch, even knowing the results. And all the things you said there, right? To be playing well, to have chances to go higher. I mean, Chad missed a real easy goal, right? They could have. I'm not saying it would have made a difference, but we could have put the foot in the throat even more. And then I couldn't even bring myself to count how many times this season we've had a half like we did. I think it must be at least 4 or 5, right? Adelaide, Suns comes to mind. There've been others. So very disappointing way for a strong team to just wave the white flag at the end and go down.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot. If you're the Giants, you're going to approach that and because they got an all-time spray at halftime, which I don't know, maybe we just need more sprays. I feel like as a club we're pretty diplomatic. You know, Toby Green kicks Dane Rampy in the nuts with a karate kick, a backward heel, and we don't say anything. We go, oh, nothing to see here. It's like, well, we've all seen the vision. The vision
Yeah.
that does not belong on a footy field. You know, so maybe as a club, we can, you know, be a little less diplomatic and a little bit more like, you know, well, hang on a sec, guys, this is not acceptable. For more than me, it's, you know, if a club kicks 3 goals on you, you just have to hope that, you know, our spirit, our game plan, something, our leaders can stop the trend of absorbing goals on the run. Like, I mean, like if you have two goals scored against you, it's like high alert, and if it's 3, it's like not panic stations, but like we're doing everything we can to stop that next goal. Like we have to score the next goal, and that's what it just doesn't feel like is there. I mean, the Suns game you mentioned, Harps, is like that to me. It was just so reflective of that, and you know, that wasn't a good feeling, that game. But we sort of kind of went, well, we're still missing a lot of players. You know, that was up there as well, wasn't it? That was on the Gold Coast, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yep.
So we're like, you know, the Suns are pretty good at home. The Giants, I guess they were at home, but we were won the last 8 of 11 or whatever it was. You know, the Giants are in form still, one of the top 5 teams with most wins in the last 10 weeks. But yeah, it was extremely disappointing. Extremely disappointing.
Yeah. Let's talk about Toby Green in a minute because, I think, well, I mean, there were some sanctions to come out of the game, and there's a lot of chat going around online about him as well. But yeah, look, I agree with all you said there, Noddy. And you know, this time last week we were all down, right? There's a lot of disappointed Swans fans out there online. We could see that. A lot of people kind of turning to the list. What happens now? Who leaves? Who comes? How do we fix this? So yeah, look, I mean, I guess just to the listeners out there, we have a couple of mantras on this podcast, and the first is that it's supposed to be fun, right? We're doing this because we enjoy it, and frankly, last week it just didn't feel like fun, so we decided to take a week off. But we're back today. And Noddy, before we get on to Toby Green, which will also allow me to lay down the second mantra we have on this podcast, I'll just do my 3 words on the Giants game. Right? I was thinking today about Robert Frost. You know Robert Frost?
Sounds like some sort of artist, a writer.
He's a poet. Yeah, he was an American poet throughout the 1900s. Yeah. Very good one, right? He won many Pulitzer Prizes, and he fantastic writer about humanity and the human condition. And he suffered a lot in his life, a lot of deaths in his immediate family and his children, and very, a life full of suffering towards the end. And someone said to him, you've written all your life and decorated poet, and what would you say about life, right? How do you surmise life? And he said, all I've learned about life, I can summarize in 3 words. It goes on. And it will go on. It was a loss. It was disappointing. It's a horrible way to end the season. I'd rather go down fighting than go down, conceding 11 goals on the bounce or whatever it was. But, we're still here, Noddy.
Yeah, mate.
Yep. And we'll be here next week as well, right? And we'll be at the games and just have to look to next season and what we can get out of the remainder of this season.
It goes on. So that's definitely the most profound I think you've been, and all it took was a season-ending effort at our crosstown rivals. So, look, I'd happily forego this educated version of your. No, you are obviously educated, but this very suave, intellectual. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm just deeply impressed that you've hit the nail on the head, and I want to say, a rougher version of that and say, such is life. But
yes, well,
but I think there's more to that quote that Ned Kelly said, but that's the one that often gets quoted. But yeah, it does. It goes on.
I thought you were thinking about the tattoo on Ben Cousins' abs.
It was that such is life.
Yeah, it sure was. Yeah, right across the stomach.
I'll take some more. It does go on. It goes quite on in sometimes. But yeah,
Well, maybe from the sublime then to maybe a little more of a lower brow conversation. Let's
yep.
just reflect on Toby Green's game because I mean, I don't know if you love him or hate him as a Giants fan. You probably love him, but he certainly makes an impact, right? And suspended again. We'll talk about the suspension, but I mean, you were there at the game, right? What was your impression of Toby on the day, Noddy?
Well, you obviously don't have the close-ups that you do when you're watching it on the TV at home. And there was obviously a lot of niggle before the first bounce, and I didn't really see that, to be honest. But we've all seen the footage of him dropping the elbow. Like he definitely dropped the elbow like late and deliberately into the neck and head of his business partner Isaac Heaney. So, I mean, that's the first one. Well, not chronologically, but it's the first one we noticed. I noticed at the game, and then obviously saw. Well, that's the one he was suspended for, right? The act he was suspended for. I've said in the past you would love Toby Green to be on your team, but I mean, look, there's been times where he's pushed the envelope and rules have changed because of what he's done. So, do you think they're going to like specifically ban backward kicks or any kind of like taekwondo or like martial arts on the basis of Toby Green having definitely glanced backwards to see Dane Rampy and then swing his leg between Dan Rampy's crotch?
Mm.
I'm assuming to make contact. But so your question was, what do I think about him? It's pretty typical, to be honest. I'm not surprised. What I am surprised with is that he was only cited for the elbow.
Same.
To me, the
Same,
kick
Noddy.
was equally bad, if not worse.
Yeah, I agree. And we had a text go around in our group. I'll just read it out here. But it was that was his 16th game of suspension. Toby's got a hell of a rap sheet actually for suspensions going back a long way. But I'll just read this out verbatim. We were saying before the podcast, I'm not sure if I'm just falling for some online AI trolling here, but anyway, this appears to be from the AFL rules. A player in the AFL league can be deregistered after accumulating a total of 16 weeks of suspension throughout their career, including both AFL and other competitions. It says can there, but it goes on to say once a player reaches the threshold, they are automatically deregistered and barred from further participation in AFL or any other registered football competition. Now, I don't know if it's correct or not, Nonny, but it certainly caused a bit of a stir online because that's Toby's 16th game suspension.
Yeah. So you would think that if there hasn't been more about this in the media, then maybe it's just someone adjusting the Wikipedia page or whatever. But because I mean that would be a massive story, right? And I haven't heard anything about that. And maybe the AFL has just wanted to keep this under wraps if it was a thing. So they're backdating the rules or finding something in the fine print to say, oh, but we'll allow expansion clubs an additional 10 weeks because we all know they're crazy. But or some sort of excuse, right? They'll find something, they'll twist it. I mean, look, the big thing is I have no idea if that's true or not. I haven't looked into the rules of that part of the rule book, the law book or whatever. So law book is rugby, rule book is AFL, I think. But look at. I mean, what's the threshold? Why would it be 16? Like, why not 10 or why not? I mean, to me, it's like it would be 20. I'm trying to wrap my head around why it would be 16.
Yeah,
is that half of a season? It's more than half of a season. I don't know.
Well, I think 8's the most I've ever seen. What would Barry Hall get for those punches? Remember those? You get 8 weeks?
It was 8 or 10. But I mean, this is like cumulative, right? This is not just from one incident.
Yes.
He's been fined whatever it is, like 50,000 or 60,000 or 70,000, whatever it is. Him and Butters are repeat offenders, but Butters doesn't have that same level of dog act that Toby Green can definitely dish out. Again, great footballer. I'm sure fantastic captain, nice enough guy. If you're not facing him on the field, I'm sure Isaac Heaney had his reasons for going into business with him, and I'm sure they had a laugh about it. I'm sure they did, but it just doesn't look good because it's it's been happening for a very long time now.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has. Before we move on, what did you think of the joke about Papley having too many Maccas as well?
So look, I forgot about that. So obviously they had their own interaction. I'm not really full on. There's Did Papley tease Stringer for being fat before Toby was questioned at halftime, or was that afterwards?
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear
So
that.
I don't know. I don't know. Like if Toby is saying that because Papley has teased Stringer, because in the past, Stringer's been labelled overweight, which is, he may have been at his time at the Bombers, but he's certainly looking pretty good now, and he was pretty good in that game.
Yeah.
But perhaps that was just Toby trying to get him. And then obviously there was the picture of Papley eating McDonald's the night before the game or something. Did you hear about that? So there's obviously an in joke, but it just came across as Toby Green calling Papley fat on air. So we're not privy to all this backstory. But look, again, if nothing's come of it from us, we're extremely diplomatic, then it is what it is. To me, the kick was yeah. I mean, the elbow. I think the kick was worse than the elbow for me, and the elbow was bad, but the kick was. I can't believe it wasn't. It was let go, to be honest, but because it was so far from being a footy act. The elbow, you could kind of go, oh, he was falling over and did this and that. I know footy act, non-footy act is not quite the ruling at the moment, but it's still a good indicator of whether something should even be looked at or not.
Mhm.
And I think there was more, what's the word? Complaints from AFL headquarters that someone had leaked the down the ground vision to one of the media outlets. I think that became more of a story. It's like, well, let's overlook the fact that guys just backheel the player to the nuts and go, well, who released the vision? I mean, to me, that's a crazy argument. But anyway, stranger things have happened and nothing came of it. And yeah, it was what it
Yeah.
was, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, I thought the McDonald's chat was pretty funny at halftime. But I thought the kick was poor. I thought the elbow actually was worse than the kick. The elbow for me that's really, really dangerous. You could seriously hurt someone with that. But he is a player. I mean, he's always there or thereabouts, isn't he?
He
And he
plays on the
knows how to
edge.
get him up. Yep.
Yeah,
he does.
Red mist, as Jimmy Partel said. But then it was funny online, like people saying, "Oh, Dane Rampy deserves it because he climbs footy posts." It's like, okay, all right, this is devolving quickly. But
Yeah.
it tends to happen on these polarizing incidents.
So let's fast forward a week and just spend a second enjoying how badly the Giants got pumped by the Bulldogs. That was nice, wasn't it?
It was okay, but I would never kick a dog or a giant when they're down. That's just not what I do. It's not what the Swans do, right?
Right.
We tend to try to hold our head high and give everyone fair, warning, and then if they are repeat offenders, then surely that's grounds for standing up and pleading a case. But yeah, I think the Bombers game was, well, you were there.
Well, it was nice to get a win. I will say that. Pride game as well. Only one in the AFL, so it's. I don't know how many years they've been doing it, the Swans, but it's a good annual event. Nice to keep that going, and should be expanded, I think, into the other clubs around the league. Not for me to say, but I do think it's a good event, and there should be more of it. And maybe before the game, Noddy, pew 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 pew, merch watch. You like this year?
I do. I think it was a nice nod. Obviously the rainbow around the edge of the Opera House. In the past, there's been all sorts of different designs. I think they may have had it on the socks as well this time. I can't recall, but I think it was a nice looking Guernsey, and I'll probably pick it up. I've got a couple of the Pride Guernseys, so I think that's probably one I will I will acquire at some point. But I don't think the Bombers had anything because, as we were saying earlier, it's usually against St Kilda. It's usually Sydney versus St Kilda is the Pride game. or the Pride round, but for us two teams, but the sole Pride game, as you've already mentioned. So
Mm.
the Bombers stepped in this time, but I can't recall them having anything on their Guernsey that said that. Maybe they did. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think yeah, it's obviously fantastic to have that, and to keep that going. It's extremely important, obviously.
Yeah.
And the Swans are very strong about that. We're an inclusive club and everyone's welcome and all that sort of stuff. That is definitely required for the growing game in society, both in the men's and women's game. But
Mm.
but my 3 words, mate, just for the game was pretty ordinary affair. To be honest,
Yes, it was. Yes, it
pretty
was.
ordinary affair. Yeah, I mean, I definitely wasn't alone because what'd you say? We were about 20,000. Last year we were averaging just under 40. This year I think we're averaging just over 30. But that's probably reflective of our effort this year and our success. But I think that coupled with the season ending the week before the way it did, the weather, the British and Irish Lions were on. There was a lot of things I think happening that sort of it wasn't. But you were saying short, like even 20,000, it was a pretty lackluster environment, like
Look, it
vibe at the
was
game.
yeah, it was a dour game. Honestly, it was very forgettable. I mean, look, I'll say first up, I thought conditions were appalling. Like it had been raining. It had been raining pretty much nonstop for 24 plus hours beforehand. It rained pretty heavily in the middle of the game. If you're on the lower levels at the SCG, there's not a lot of cover out there, right? As you said, there's other sport going on in the city at the same time with the Lions going on. So, and also to your point there as well, the season had effectively ended in terms of a finals opportunity the preceding week. So I expected a lower crowd, but I mean, it was empty. I mean, there was no one at the station on the way in. Very quiet in the game. First half actually was all right. First half was better than the second. And yeah, nice to get the win in the end. But look, not a lot of highlights, right? I mean, we wanted to talk about the Tolly. You've watched the Tolly a few times in the Rezzies, right? And he could have scored, could have kicked a goal first kick. Actually, he was he was around the game. They had a couple of opportunities.
Yeah, he was on the edge of that exclusive club first kick, first goal. But it wasn't to be. What did he kick in the end? 0-2, 0-3?
Yeah,
0-2.
0-2, I thought, yeah.
But he did some nice things. I think that was a decent debut. Like to get a win is always great in your first game. To kick a goal in your first game is even better probably. But Errol's 100th as well, so got the job done for those guys. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot to like about him. He did, had some good positioning. He had some good moments. You'd expect him to just go from strength to strength. So yeah, fingers crossed that he can continue.
And what's his contract look like, Noddy? I know you know everyone's contract intimately.
Well, I think he's still on his initial contract, which I think is as a first round pick. If it's not an automatic 3, it's definitely 2. But I don't think he was high enough to trigger 4th in his like it's somewhere between 2 and 3.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, he's the kind of player that you think and Papley, everyone, I saw the videos of him doing the Guernsey handout. Like a lot of the senior leaders recognised him as a player that could have debuted early if it had not been for his back stress injury, because he's just clean. He's got time on the ball. He can go left and right. He's he's got a bit of X factor. So it's exciting, because obviously we picked up Jacob Constanti for similar reasons. I don't know why we end up picking these small forwards, but he looks like one that is hopefully going to deliver. We're not going to palm him off to North Melbourne with our club champion, but after he's taken out the captain on a Mad Monday incident. But yeah, that first pick was one will go down in the history books. But first round pick, sorry. Yeah, look, as you said, look, I think it was probably a case of, maybe putting the queue in the rack. Like we're 3 or 4 goals up at half time, same at same at 3/4 time, and then the Bombers came back, and it was all the commentators could speak about, and it's probably fair enough because watching the game, I was like, man, the Bombers are going to come back here and beat us, and that's going to be, well, it won't be worse than the week before, but geez, it'll feel like, yeah, maybe an elbow to the head and then a kick to the balls, if you want to quote Toby Green's repertoire. Yeah, look, it was good, obviously, to hang on. There were some really good moments, but yeah, it was pretty ordinary, to be honest. Pretty ordinary.
Yeah. Let's hit the bottom middle. We'll pull out some of the better performances. Let's go with the man we gave 1 point, 100th game, Errol.
Oh, Errol kicked a goal. I think his grandfather, who's 90, was up from country Victoria, seeing him for the first time ever. We certainly put the weather on for him. But yeah, I just think he had a solid game, 30 touches in the end, 7 marks, 4 tackles. He didn't give Grundy the handball at the end there, which would have given Grundy 40 touches. And when he was interviewed after the game, he looked legitimately disappointed because he didn't realise, obviously. In fact, he defended it saying, "I've always been taught not to handball to a ruckman." So I thought that was both fun to watch and obviously, he's like, "Oh man, I didn't help my mate get 40." But I don't know. I just love him. He's my favourite player. We've played better since he's been back. I think that, he's definitely a future captain. Everyone already mentions it, from the media down to fans. You can hear just how instructive he is on the field, and how impactful he is in his effort and his, damaging displays. So, yeah, I don't know, mate. He was just there's a couple of other good games. I'm sure we'll touch on a few honourables, but I think it was a well-deserved 1 point.
Yeah, I mean, he's only had, I think, 6 games back, maybe 7, and he's just looking. He's averaging 26 disposals. He's just always in there, isn't he? He's really hit the ground running. Considering he missed a pretty nasty injury, right? One that takes some a recovery time and B kind of confidence to get back to the level where you can run and turn abruptly and all those things. It really came in flying. Yeah, he's been a bright light.
I've been astounded at how he hasn't looked like he's carrying an injury at all, and that speaks probably to his recovery, his preparation, but also his mental fortitude to just sort of, once you're out on the field, you leave it all out there. And yeah, I mean, it makes sense because the guy's just awesome.
Well done. Very fit too. I mean, they all are, but Errol is particularly fit.
Two-way runner, yeah, he's amazing.
2 points. I was just looking at the stats again. Best on ground for meters gained, and I must say it is one of the parts of the game that I remember to notice quite a lot. Blakey, he had a lot of dash off the back flank. What do you think of his game, mate?
Yeah, no, Lizard was good. He was really good. Like, he was also interviewed after the game. Obviously, with the season done, they're tinkering with the system in preparation for next year, and I think he had 11 intercepts. 10 marks, four of those contested. But yeah, 28 disposals at 82% is good for him, I think, or good for any player. But for someone who, can butcher it, I wouldn't say, he's right. It happens, right? And you go, oh, Lizard. But you love him anyway because you want his dare. You want the endeavour because anything can come from it. But yeah, he was just 8. He was fantastic. He was 8 inside 50s, 4 rebound 50s. 7 score involvements, 678 meters gained.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was a clear, second best on field, I think, for us. And I've always wondered, ever since he's gone back, he's got the height to be a key defender, but he's got the frame and the dare to just be an attacking halfback, and which makes him this really potent mix. But sometimes I think he can get caught in between those two worlds. I personally just like to see him just run and gun, but obviously he's got the height to intercept, and maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe he's going to work on his intercepting game for next year. I think for that to happen, I still don't think he needs. I don't think he should be the third tall. I just think we need to think of him as a halfback, a run and gun halfback who happens to be 196 centimeters. So for me, it's like you have two talls and then a third tall. So, like, in the game that we had Melican, McCartan, and Rampy. That's a great combo to let Blakey do his thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's at his best when there's less flamboyant. I was going to say more reliable. It makes it sound negative on Blakey. But when you've got I'm Melican, right? It's a perfect example, as is McCartan to a degree. I mean, you just know what they're going to take the mark or compete for the mark, and when they take the mark, they're going to hold it and play it well, sensibly. Just good defensive work, right? And I agree. I think Blakey. I think his greatest skill is the run and the surprise factor. He can open the game up really any time he gets on it. I think his decision making has improved year to year. Like, I remember last year, I was shaking my head much more frequently. It felt, and look, I mean, it was a really wet day, right? So, like, I don't recall anyone bouncing the ball even once, right? So, 700 meters gained, right? It's not like he was knocking up 50-meter runs, right? Because he probably had 10, 15 steps before he had to get rid of it in the wet. So yeah, did play well. Probably no surprise, but let's have a drum roll anyway before we do 3 points. You just can't keep Brodie Grundy down, and you can't compete with his stats at the moment. Noddy, I mean, I'm just looking at this stat line. When do you want to start, mate? It's good.
You go for it, mate. Start on any of them. They're all very
39
impressive.
disposals.
Yeah.
Missed the goal. Actually, didn't get his goal. 32 hitouts again. I mean, he was everywhere again, wasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, 39 disposals, 13 clearances. That's that's a midfielder stat line. 22 of those contested, 9 scoring involvements. As you said, 32 hitouts, 8 marks, 5 intercepts, 3 inside 50s, and he didn't get that handball receipt from Goulden on the end. That would have given him his 40th. But I don't know. Like we've been saying it for 2.5 months now. Like I don't know how you can't. If he's not, like, I feel like, and Max Gawn is a fantastic player and has been for a very long time. And I will say I haven't watched that many Demons games this year. I have tracked him because he's in my fantasy team, and obviously he's still killing it. But, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously biased because I'm watching the Swans and I'm seeing what Brodie Grundy's doing. But how do you not get a All-Australian Blazer after a season like this?
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think the chat is increasingly turning to that as well.
Yeah.
Commentary chat. I'm not talking online on the Sydney Swans fan page, although he's pretty popular there as well.
Yeah, he goes all right.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. The pundits are talking more and more about it. And look, he's got 3 games left. Actually, pretty slow start to the season. First 5 or 6 weeks of the season, he wasn't great, but he's been, I think, league best since then.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably no surprise that he's our, he's the highest Swan in the coaches' votes. I can't remember what he is. He's not. I think maybe Anderson's 90 odd and Grundy's 70 odd, but. I don't know where Gawn is, and that I probably should look that up. But yeah, I mean, he's clearly winning the BNF for the Swans. I dare say that he's up there for the Bob Medal as well, mate. So, yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. Another 2 years of his current contract. Todd Goldstein is how old? 38 or something? 39, 37. And he's doing all right. It was pretty funny watching those two guys go. Some rucks, they just pulled each other out of it, and they were both lying on the ground.
But pitch, mate. The pitch.
Yeah, that's it. Well, talking of the pitch, we probably should. I don't know if we'll come back to Grundy, but Warzy did correctly mention that the biggest cheer of the game went to the groundskeeper who had to come on and fill that mysterious divot. I don't know what's going on there, but there was a bucket of sand that came out that maybe they borrowed that from the SFS next door from when they were going for goal. But yeah, look, Grundy, I don't know, it's fantastic. So lucky to get him. So grateful to have him. I just hope we can make the most of him because we're not really a club that has had league-leading rucks. We've always had very serviceable rucks, and we've often also at the same time let go of our potential rucks who have gone on to win multiple flags elsewhere. But yeah, so I hope that we can hit the ground running while we have this fantastic player at our club.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the day he gets injured, it's going to be, it worries me.
Yeah. I mean, if it's going to happen, if it has to happen, I hope it doesn't. I mean, now would be the time
Mm.
to go on an early holiday, like early recovery. So, um, and that said, you could, yeah. I mean, he's just in really good form. He's our leader of the club. I can't see him, wanting to sit out. I think he's gonna want to be playing and playing his best footy and helping us win, even though we can't make the finals. But
Yeah.
that's his. I think that's his personality. So
Yeah, look, he stood up for us in situations where others have not all season. So I completely agree with that, right? And to your point, he's got an All-Australian to get right. I don't think he's going to hold up for these next 3 matches at all. I'd say put down all the way to the end, won't he?
I think so.
Yeah, we started calling him the unicorn. Actually, he's that good, that rare.
Yeah.
Good man,
I think,
Grundy. Two thumbs up.
I definitely think that seems to be the name that even the players, like again, Lizard was called him a unicorn on air. I mean, he's I think he has a little picture of a unicorn in his boots as well. But yeah, he's a good bloke as well. I think he's a good Sydney. It was a really good get by us. And again, I've said it before. The fans who thought that it was a bad move, saying that he was cooked, look at him now. So
I agree.
Yeah.
You want to do a couple of honourable mentions, and then I've got one I'd like to talk about, which again I overheard a bit of chat at the ground on Saturday. Let's start honourables though first. Anyone else catch your eye? Heaney, I'm surprised didn't make the list. I thought he had a decent game. Heaney, he was there or thereabouts.
Yeah, no, Heaney. I think probably just I probably sentimentally gave I was hoping Goulden would get the point, but Heaney also could have equally gotten that 1 point. Like I thought he had a very good game as well. He's been super consistent as well. Juzzy had a fair few touches, kicked a couple, but also sort of did a few Juzzy type things. So, but certainly up there, one of our best. Rowie, I think, was playing forward. Up forward as almost a defensive forward and missed a couple of goals, but kicked one. I think he had a pretty good game.
Nice goal. He kicks that goal well. He kicked the same goal earlier in the season, didn't he? That kind of drop punt from 50 right in the front, keeps it low.
I mean,
lovely goal.
I hate to toot my own horn, but I actually suggested that Rowbottom move to become like a defensive forward. I think it was either beginning of this year or it might have been last year. Yeah, it was the beginning of this year because when Papley was out and all this, and I got crucified online by other fans. But anyway, it has happened, and I don't want to remind everyone that I did say that. But anyway, Buller kicked a beautiful goal from the corner from the wing, almost 50, and then missed a couple right in front or whatever it was. But he's showing a lot. I'm loving what he's showing. He's still not extended. We're going to talk a little bit about the list later, but yeah, I think he's one that I think we've got high hopes for. Papley, I think he had a few moments. I think his direct opponent, Newen, the 14th debutant for Essendon, a record for the AFL, had a pretty good game against him and stepped over him at one point, like they do in the NBA. The commentators wouldn't let us forget that. But yeah, these types of guys, mate. Campbell, I thought, looked pretty good. He had a few little dashing moments, spinning guns.
Yep.
Those types of guys, I think, mate. I don't know. Have I covered everyone?
I think so. I noticed when Detoli scored as well, Grundy got right over to him and said something to him, which it looked to be words of encouragement, or I guess.
Oh, when he got the behind.
No,
or...
when he scored the goal. When he scored the goal, it was.
I don't think he did though.
I thought it was after that.
No, because there was talk of Goulden and him having prepared a celebration, and they weren't able to bring it out. So, do you mean Buller or Detoli?
Oh, I meant Buller. Sorry, I meant Buller.
Yeah, Buller for sure. Yeah, Detoli he kicked 0-2, but looked pretty good.
Sorry, yeah, no, I meant Buller. I don't know if I said Detoli.
And Buller was 1-1. Sorry, not 1-2.
Yeah, but look, I thought it showed how liked he is. I think, I mean, obviously the players see him more than we do, right? But I think they see his skill and his pedigree. And again, I was just impressed by the leadership of Grundy, right? One big guy to a young, tall guy as well. I don't know what they said, but it looked like the words of quite strong encouragement, and I think he's settling in really well. I was really impressed with that goal. Like, that wind was not easy to play with, and he just
it was beautiful.
Just lofted it beautifully. Yeah, and look, he's kicked some rippers last few games, right? So he's settling in very well.
we were talking before we started recording that, you don't really mind seeing that from a developing tall forward, right? I know he's 23, but he's come into the system late. He did play, states, WA under 18s. I think he played with Chad actually, and you can actually see he's got a good friendship with him as well. But the fact it's his, whatever it is, fifth or sixth game, he's going to be working on his consistency and his routine. And so if he's capable of taking marks like one-on-one, that's something I think that McLean and Amadi have shown glimpses of, but not consistently. But they all bring their different strengths, right? Like Amadi's got really good pressure. McLean can chop out in the ruck. But we saw, I think it was the week before, or the game, sorry, 2 weeks before, Buller, or was it this game actually, when he was playing a lot of ruck? I can't recall. They've all just this moment become one game. But look, he's obviously tall enough to go into the ruck. So I think he needs to develop that over the off season. But more than anything, and this is a blanket call, I want us to hit the gym like we're a club that places that as a top priority. I want us to come back ripped.
Like
and
we got
large.
2 weeks booked at Ibiza or something like that. That's what you're saying, right?
Well, I mean, where they lose weight, is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, before you hit the beach.
Oh, right, yeah. Put on some muscle tone before you go to Ibiza, and then come back and do a few TKs. But no, I mean like Riley Thilthorpe ACL come back and you look like you're some sort of Viking. Like, I mean, like grow a beard and chop a lot of wood over the off season. Like that's what I'm hoping like some of these blokes do. But there's also still a lot to play out, I think, on a list front. So
very interesting times. We'll talk about the list briefly at the end. We're not going to go deep into the list, listeners, because it is a moving feast, and we feel like we'll have more to say in a couple of weeks' time. But we will talk about the rumours. But I mean, just reflecting on it, Noddy, I think we'll be looking at a very different team next year. I think it'll look. I mean, it looks different this year. I think it'll look different again next year. I think there's probably quite a bit of chopping and changing. Before we get to that, one man we do know is staying, and he's a bit of a flop at the moment. Hollywood. I heard someone at the ground say on Saturday, this is Chad Warner, he's getting paid $1 million and he looks like 50 cents at the moment. And I'm not talking the rapper, I'm talking a coin. And
you're going from Robert Frost to 50 Cent. You're a man of many tastes and interests. But yeah, I can see where you actually, I don't know, did you say that or someone else made that observation?
No, it was someone behind me.
I think it's fair.
His decision making is just he's really I don't know what he's doing. Like the GWS game, he was top of the square, and he went for that outside of the foot roll. Pretty damp conditions, put it through for a point as well. Like he's had a bad little run. For someone who should be, he should be hitting the heights every week, shouldn't he?
Well, I mean, there's Nazaya Wangani Miller, who is the most talked about uncontracted player in the AFL at the moment. And he hasn't signed the contract yet, so he could very well come back and just roll out some stinkers next year. It can, you do see it, the player, there's all the hype, they're playing super well to get the contract, and then there's a bit of a drop off. It's happened even with some of our players. But Chad, I think, look, I don't know. I think I've been wondering about this, like since we, talking about it, and maybe he's just the kind of guy that, he's in it to play finals, and if we're not playing finals, then he's not, maybe he's not going to put his full display out there. But I don't know. There were moments in the game when it looked like he was legitimately, trying. But there was also some moments where you saw him drop off noticeably and gave up in defensive efforts. And that's the kind of thing that you don't really want to be seeing, I think, because that's the sort of stuff that informs standards. And he now is, although he's still kind of young, he is one of the league's highest players. Is certainly one of our highest paid players. And that there's some expectation that comes with that. And so even if you're not in form, I would rather be seeing effort and miss kicks than miss kicks and no effort. But but that's like, I mean, it's certainly not his fault that we were almost lost, but there was some disappointing efforts, I think, is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, look, I'm actually not questioning the effort. I think he's entitled to have more noticeable games and less noticeable games, and I'm not questioning his skill either. But his decision making to me, and I think to other fans, is lacking. I mean, just a couple of examples spring to mind, right? The decision to roll the goal, or the attempt at the goal in the GWS game, which we probably would have lost that anyway, to be honest. But it would have been an extra goal ahead, right? It looks harder when you're 36 points down or whatever at half time as opposed to 30. And like, he's coming into a lot of criticism on commentary as well. Decision to kick the ball over, hand pass it. You've heard that chat, right? In close quarters, he often decides to kind of throw it on the boot and just put it forwards. And there's a lot of chat that he should be using his hands more, right? Putting it out wide or putting it left or right to one of the rovers. And Sammy talks often about this outside of the boot kick that he does, which doesn't often pay off. So I think, I don't know what it is. And look, the season's there's no finals to play for this year, but I'd like to see, Errol as an example, equally talented, right? I think we'd say doesn't seem to, Heaney again. That if you're talking about the big three, the decision making and the execution is better for me. And we know Chad's capable of better, right? I just like to see a bit more. I just say I like some more consistency.
Well, I think it was. I think I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to come up with a response to your, because I think there is a bit of effort there. There were times there on the vision where he just gave up defensively, but I know what you mean. Like, I think Dustin Martin was the best proponent of that sort of leading right kick to change angles and stuff, like, and I think everyone's trying to emulate it, and Chad sometimes hits it but more often doesn't quite get onto it. And I don't know, I guess the question to you, so in my response I've got a question and then a response. So the question is he known for his decision making? I would have thought he's known more for his X factor and impact, and then the reason I think he kicks rather than handballs is because he's so damaging fending off and running out of the tight contest. Although it had people, the game has caught up with him. It was either last year or the year before where he was like up there for most fend offs and no one could touch him, right? Yeah. And then the next year people were like, okay, we've got to close space on Chad Warner and not let him go because he's extremely fast and he's elusive. But he does like to fend off, right? So maybe in his mind he's like, I've got to keep my hands free because I might need to fend off. And so if he is caught, all he's got left to do mentally is like throw it on the boot. But I agree. These are all things that you hope that he's taking on board and then adding to his areas to improve on for next year. We've got him for at least another 2 years, right?
Yeah. And there's no doubting the ability, I'm sure it'll turn. Look, that's an interesting point. The fend, I hadn't thought about the fend. Yeah,
I was just trying to think about, like as you said it, I was like, why would he have a predisposition to kick rather than handball? But maybe that's it. I don't know. I was just sort of trying to come up with a decent sounding excuse.
Okay. Well, it feels like a positive note because I'm laughing. So let's talk about some positives, Noddy. Your boy Sheldrick re-signed in the last couple of weeks. That's great news.
I love it. I've been big on that for ages. There's a lot of fans that say he butchers the ball. He doesn't know how to kick. I mean, since then we've seen like 3 or 4 weeks of him lacing out Buller and kicking. He actually laced out someone on his right foot in the Bombers game, and I was like, there you go. He can actually do it on his right as well. I mean, he has butchered a few right kicks, but Goulden as well. The left footers, they're beautiful on the left and usually competent on the right, and more so than right footers going to their left. But yeah, look, I think he's just going to get better and better. He's a player that really could be anything. He really could be anything. And I'm very pleased that because I'm sure he was tempted to go home, and I'm sure West Coast Eagles are calling every WA native, that isn't contracted, or there's a question mark over, and yeah, I was just happy to see that he's recommitted for a couple more years at least.
Yeah, look, he's shown more than enough that I'd like to see him in my team next year. I agree.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
got a
for
lot of
me,
potential.
he's a lot like he's clearly like a contested beast. Like he's not at all. He's not he's not like a Patrick Cripps, but he's a unit, right? He's
He is.
small, strong, and he can actually. There was a moment in the Bombers game, I think he bounced off like 3 or 4 players, handballed it to Chad or someone, and Chad lost it. I think it was Chad. I can't remember, but there's a moment there you go, well, I mean, Sheldrick has just battering rammed his way through,
Mm.
you know. So I think there's so many positive signs there, and I think that another preseason, because he's had some interrupted runs at it. It's only his 3rd or 4th season in the system, and I think pretty much all of last year was knocked out. So if he can get some continuity, I mean, since he held his spot this year, I think he's had like 12 or whatever it is, 12 or 15 games consecutively. He's established himself as a regular in the AFL team. So yeah, I think that with another preseason, I'm expecting big things. And he obviously can go in the middle, but he can also go forward and kick goals, right? So super handy. He's keeping a player like Taylor Adams out of the team. I know he's sort of only really back from injury himself, but like an established senior footy player like Taylor Adams is being kept out by Sheldrick and a few other players, but largely like for like.
Yeah. And Jake Lloyd, 1 year extension?
Yeah. Look, I think that that's probably warranted. I've obviously I keep my own list on what I think the team looks like, and Lloydie is a great story, right? Like he's a low pick. I think he might have a rookie pick from Vic Country, and he's become a 250 gamer he's almost 270 games. So look, he's probably going to get to 300, right? So I think if you're Dane Rampy, him signing on for a year would probably make you want to stay around again, because those guys are pretty similar in where they're at and how long they've played together. Look, I think it's a safe bet for a player at that age. He's certainly still contributing. He's sort of kicking
Looks
kicking
good up
goals.
front, doesn't he? Looks very good up front.
Looks like a really handy player to have in the team, right? Like super experienced, sort of, well, I don't love the long bombs, but everyone's guilty of that, right? But yeah, I think he's playing good footy forward half at the moment, and I think it's warranted a year. I wonder, and this is a bit of a nerdy list thing, whether he's going to be kept on the primary list, and I suspect if he's extended, that he'll be kept on the primary list. But like, for example, last year they delisted both Francis and Hamling to relist them again, and that moves them to the rookie A list to free up the primary list. But anyway, there's a few other little things like that I think will play out as we head into the trade period. But we said we weren't going to go too deep, and I'm obviously sliding at a rate of knots here into that talk.
I would like to hear what you're hearing around the traps, Noddy. Well, just to round it out though, Laddams also re-signed 2 years.
Yes. Yep.
Bit of surprise about that, I think, but he's proving to be a relatively capable supply tool, utility tool, should we call him?
Definitely, he's a good backup, because he's probably a better key forward, I think. To be like, he's capable in the ruck, but sorry, I'm just looking at my handwritten notes here. So yeah, look, he's one that I probably might not. It might have been that delist relist function, because I can see the benefit of his cover, and maybe the club wanted that, but then maybe his management said, well, we've got 2-year offers elsewhere, so it's got to be 2 if you want to hold us, and we'll never know how those conversations go or went, and whether there was truth to any of these hypothetical statements I'm making. But I think his form in the VFL has shown that he's more than a VFL player, but his consistency, or probably lack thereof, at AFL level says that he's a good depth player. He's a reliably good depth player, and maybe with more consistency, he might develop into something a bit more than that. But obviously, it's in that ruck / key forward mold. And yeah, look, I think if he can take marks and kick goals, then we know that he can step in and chop out for Grundy. So it comes down to the rest of the team and structure. But look, it's fair enough, Like, I think if you don't go for him, then you've got to go look at all these other rucks that are sort of coming in and out, and there's a lot of club players that are already linked to clubs. So maybe it's better the devil right? So
Yeah, yeah. Look, I agree with everything you said as well, right? And I think he is capable. I
mm,
think he's also got a bit of X factor about him, which sounds funny for a big guy.
mm,
But it's the consistency. I completely agree. And look, it's not worth forgetting. We should remember. We're down Amadi, we're down Logan, we're down Hayden, right after that head blow against GWS. So I mean, we're quite a way through the tools. Tommy
mm,
McCartan's in and out with his head. He's always a bit of a risk there, right? So
mm,
I mean, yeah, let's just say capable tall players are good to have around the club, right? Sam Reed played many years, kind of just as a utility tool, sometimes
mm,
front, sometimes back, and he's a very
mm.
capable player. So let's just say, it's not a bad player to have in the squad, I think, given the size and the flashes of what he can do.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously, like with Dean Cox, ex Ruck, genius as coach, he obviously, he's going to be looking at what he does closely,
Mm,
in the drills and stuff. He obviously, doesn't mind who he is as a player, and the other part of it is, his friendships and how he sits in the club and the cohesion factor and stuff like that. So, and he's definitely gotten over his early years of brain fades. Yeah, and Rucks develop a bit later, right? So he might come on in the second year of this contract and end up being like our lead ruck. We don't know. So
mm.
I think it works for him and it works for us. So initially I was surprised, but it makes more and more sense to me, to be honest. So just quickly, Harps, if you don't mind, that leaves Francis, Patton, Mitchell, Rampy, Kirk, Buller, Hamling, and Fox as the only players yet to finalize.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Haven't
But
seen much of Fox, have we?
no, yeah, he's just sort of come back in the VFL. He's one that the end of last year, I was like, he's the first magnet on the board every game, because he's like, one of the two players who've actually, tried in our two past grand finals. But he's so capable on every line. He's
Yeah,
sort of, I think I've said previously, his ability to be such a good utility player at times has been his undoing.
yeah. And you don't get the swings. He's consistent, right? You know what you're going to
Yeah,
get, and you get it every week. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. He's very aerobically gifted. He works hard. He can do lockdown defender. He can be small forward. He's actually a really good midfielder. He can run all day, so you can put him on the wing. He's a great halfback. We saw that in the grand finals. But yeah, look, he's at an age profile, and he did have a soft tissue issue, I think, this year. So maybe they're just monitoring him. For me, it's like, I think it's Collingwood that takes this stance. Like, when players get to a certain age, no matter who they are, they only get offered 1 year contracts. And actually, if that's a okay segue, I might lead into some of these other rumors that are running around at the moment. So Brody Myercheck is the key forward for the Pies, who has been linked with us and or in discussions with us in Melbourne, and he's 32 or something like that. So he's not really young by any means, but I think he falls into that category at the Pies where you get over 30, north of 30, and we just give you rolling 1 year contracts. That seems to be how they operate, even for Pendlebury, and he's just recontracted. I haven't read the details. He's probably gotten 2 years to make me look like an idiot. But yeah, I think while we have, while we still really are in the window, the Grundy, Chad, Heaney at the top of his game window, there's a few positions we need to round it out. And yeah, obviously key forward is at the top of the list there, you would say. I don't know how much more you want to talk about this, Harps, because I'm on the precipice of just this becoming a full-blown list conversation.
Well, you're a man that
thinks very deeply about these things, Noddy. So I'd expect nothing less, mate. A couple of other names though: Petrarca, Silvani, both in the rumor mill this week.
Yeah, worth looking at. If their names are if they're gettable, we should be talking to everyone.
All right. Well, look, I'm sure we'll talk more list in the coming weeks, right? Because the games are of less significance, at least in terms of us making the finals. How much do we want to talk about the Lions, mate? It's gonna be a hard game. Maybe we just leave it at that.
Yeah, they had a good game against the Pies. So yeah, look, I think they're primed again, aren't they? They're doing very well. Their list is in a good spot, and yeah, they're a great club, aren't they? So it's going to be a very hard task, but
Yeah.
I hope we go up there and give them hell. To be honest,
A lot of things, going right for them. Noddy, the 3 games left. Let's say we can beat West Coast. I think we'd all hope for that, which is the last game of the season. So we have coming up the Lions away and then Geelong at home on a Sunday afternoon. Noddy, you can win either the Lions game. I know you hate the Lions, or the Geelong game. I know you hate Geelong. Not both. Who would you prefer to beat?
I have a rolling dislike of anyone that's vanquished in a grand final. So that's sort of just a generic statement.
So, do you hate West Coast as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
North Melbourne. In my life, it's North Melbourne, West Coast, Western Bulldogs, Geelong, and the Brisbane Lions. So
what about the Hawks, mate?
Oh, yeah, I forgot the Hawks. Yeah,
I mean that's
my dislike of them is so deep seated. I forgot about it. I have to peel a few layers back to get to them.
You have to numb yourself to the hate. Yeah, okay,
that's right. Yeah.
All right, so maybe we can beat one of those 2 teams. They're both in good shape. The Lions and the Cats both playing great stuff. Who would you rather beat, mate?
Look, I'd probably rather beat the Cats and stop this bullshit talk of Jez's 100. But yeah, don't give him an inch. Like I can't believe that there was someone who was like, "Should we just help Geelong and Jezza get to his 100th?" I was like, "What? What is that question?"
No, I mean he's flushing the ball. He's kicking the ball really well.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, he is.
But
he is.
Don't give an inch. I fully expect the team to go out and try and win each of these 3 games.
Yeah.
The one thing I know that we haven't really been able to do this year is put teams away. So perhaps the Eagles game will be tighter than we would like. But yeah, the Lions and Cats game are going to be hard because they are putting teams away. Well, the Cats are putting teams away, but they've also got an easy run home. There's a lot made of that.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
True.
It was the Lions, and I think we had slightly harder runs home. But look, to be honest, like I have respect for Geelong as a footy club, and I have respect for Brisbane as a footy club. They just happened to smash us in grand finals, so now my respect for them is tempered with disdain. But yeah, look, if you're telling me it's got to be one or the other, then yeah, it's the Cats to stop this nonsense talk of Jezza.
Yeah. And it'll be a home game, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm planning to take my whole family, and from experience, when you go to games and you lose, it's a very different experience to taking your whole family to a game and winning when everyone goes home happy. So I'm hopeful. To your point, though, I just want to see us really, really get stuck into 2 teams that I do think we're good enough to beat, and just give them everything we got. Give them a real going over. That's all I want from them.
That's all you can hope for, I think, at this point. I think we should be striving for 3 wins and finish on 13. And we'll look back and go, oh, we missed out on the 8 by 1 or 2 spots or percentage or whatever it ends up being. But then also, we're sort of in no man's land for next year in terms of draft picks. So I think when you're so close to the 8, you just have to win, because more important than what you end up getting in terms of draft picks, you've got to create. It's a new coach, and he's got to create a winning environment, right? Like he's inherited a winning environment. Well, with an asterisk, a couple of big asterisks, but yeah, he's got to sort of carry the momentum over, and that he should be. He definitely is. You hear him in the press conferences and stuff. So that's definitely, they're going to be approaching each game to win it. But yeah, I hope we can.
Yeah. Look, it's not a great time to be a Swans fan at the moment, but it's certainly an interesting time. And Noddy, we had a lot to unpack there, but I enjoyed unpacking it with you, mate. It's not been
Thanks,
an easy
mate.
couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Horrible part of the season, isn't it, when it ends, and the finals are gone.
Yeah.
At any point.
Look,
So-
we are sorry. We're so blessed to have been so successful for so long. Like it's 2.5 decades of finals, apart from a handful of times, right?
Yeah.
The 2 years, a couple of years ago in a row, where we built on the go, rebuilt on the go, and then this year, and can't really remember the time before that, right? So we're very lucky,
That's right.
So we've
Yeah.
got to be there for the good times and the bad, right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. That brings us to the end of the episode, and thank you for listening all the way through. It was a big one, and I know there'll be some emotions out there as well from all the fans. So thank you for listening along, and if you made it this far, if you haven't already, give us a like and a follow.
Whether it be in person or on the potty, we look forward to whenever you can join us next time. But until then, up the Bloods.
The Bloods.
Can
you Swannies.
3 more dubs. Come on, guys.
Get into them.
Let's go.
Come on.
It hurts for a while, will lost can take apart. We bleed like we meant to get at the source. There is a star. It wasn't a day, it wasn't a season. In every heartbreak, there's a reason. Whether it's blood, there is never a loss. Whether it's love, there is never a loss. Our face at the sirens go. The river rises, then it falls. The river rises, then it falls. The rock remains throughout it all. It wasn't a day, it wasn't a season. In every heartbreak, there's a reason. Whether it's love, there is never a loss. Whether it's love, there is never a loss. We bleed like we meant to get. Where there is love, there is never a loss. We bleed like we meant to get. Where there is love, there is never a loss.
This podcast is an independent fan-run production and is in no way affiliated with the Sydney Swans Football Club, its players, or the AFL. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the Sydney Swans or any official organisation. All commentary is intended for entertainment and discussion purposes only.